my mission in Naked Warriors to help veterans and first responders. Like, we're all stressed. We all have anxiety. We all have like emotional baggage. CBD, it was a modality to help me, get out of this red zone so that I can get into like orange or yellow, so I can have better self-talk and just like improve my overall quality of life.
Hey, welcome to the Empire Show. My name is Bedros Keuilian, and this is an inside look. And today we're going to talk about something really special. It is about being a high performer in every category of life, even in entrepreneurship. And I've got a very special guest, my good friend Will Branum, retired Navy SEAL and founder and creator of Naked Warrior Recovery. Will, welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Welcome. And so, first of all, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
As a Navy SEAL, you've definitely seen a lot of action. And the way we were connected and became friends was through another Navy SEAL, our lovable Ray Kashkar.
Ray Kashkar.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, lead instructor for the project, and one badass dude. So, first of all, the theme of this particular show is about treating whatever it is that you're doing as though you're an athlete, right? And I always think that people forget that as an entrepreneur, if you want to really hit the peak levels of success, you probably ought to treat yourself as an athlete. You ought to sleep at the same time and wake up at the same time and eat right. And we always talk about all that stuff and drink lots of water and work out, but we don't go into the weeds of what those things are, what supplements we take and what level of sleep we try and dive into. And I imagine as a Navy SEAL, you probably had some routines to keep yourself at peak performance. Would that be a safe assumption to make?
Try your best to be as high a performance as possible.
Yeah. So can I ask some of the habits that you guys had or the lifestyle that you lived to keep you guys, kind of fight ready, war ready when needed?
So we generally go through a workup. So we have a planned schedule for when we're going to deploy. So we know we're going to deploy on this date. We may or may not know exactly where we're going to deploy, but we go through an 18-month block of training. And in that block of training, we're focusing on tactics, techniques, and procedures. We're focusing on just team building, from a leadership perspective. And, we have, new guys come in the team every day. So we have to train them up on new tactics, techniques, and procedures, how we're going to do things, violence of action, and build their mindset. But in addition to that, that training is hard. It beats your body up. Everyone thinks about going through BUD/S. And, that's certainly how you get beat up there. And then they break you down and they try to build you back up. But when you're in the team, I have so many injuries from being in the teams, many more than I did, going through BUD/S.
Yeah.
So, we've hired fitness coaches to come in. We have human performance programs. We've hired nutritionists to come in. They go and they travel around with us at times and go through different blocks of training where they'll kind of be sitting on the sideline and like kind of coach us on like, okay, for recovery, you need to do these kind of more mobility exercises. And when you're trying to, in between blocks of training, we might, do a different workout segment where we're lifting heavier or doing more, I want to call it like Jim Jones style workout where it's like strength endurance. Because when you think about athletes, you think about basketball players, they're high endurance. You think about football players, they're very powerful and very explosive.
High strength.
So when you think about special forces, you have to be both of those. There are times where you have to do this, like maybe a 10-kilometer hike. We'll call it a hike to get to your target. A helicopter drops you off here. You have to patrol in. It could be through the mountains. It could be wherever. And then when you get to your target, you have to be very explosive, violence of action, take care of business, and then sometimes you're walking back out. So we do our best to to prepare to prepare the team to be able to perform at that high level of, long endurance, explosive in the middle, and then endurance again. And we try to focus on sleep, we focus on nutrition, we focus on just physical ability and functional movement.
Sure. And I imagine so now I'm just picturing, helicopter drops you off. You guys are patrolling, whatever, 5-10 mile or kilometer hike. There's your endurance, especially you're loaded up with gear. You're not just
body armor, weapons,
right,
water.
And then you get to your target, and now you have to go explosive, violent, a lot of strength. But also there's the stress inoculation that has to take place because someone's probably shooting back at you.
Sure.
Someone's doing something that's, if they had it their way, you'd end up dead.
And you may not even make it to your target before getting contacted.
Yeah. So how do you guys deal with kind of building your mindset or your maybe nervous system to deal with stress? Because in sports, stress can create a fumble. How many people do we see where they run their best 440 in training, or sprinters who set records during training and then somehow slip off the blocks because the stress was too high?
Sure.
So how do you guys deal with that?
So we try to address that as much as possible in training.
Yeah.
So during this 18 months of workup, we try to put the training cadre tries to put the platoon or the task unit into as stressful a situation as possible. So sometimes they'll just kill the leadership, and now the most junior man, you're in charge. So we'll even usually start the mission, and maybe the junior man is in charge. I like doing that when I was a leader, where I would just I'm a new guy, I don't know anything, and I'm training my new leaders in contact drills, which is basically learning how to be in a gunfight and how to read the terrain and learn how to maneuver and tell people what to do and how to get there. And we try to keep it as very basic and simple as possible. But sometimes if my leader had, maybe he froze, he wasn't sure which call to make or whatever, I might say, hey, what do you think about that piece of terrain right over there? And then just enough information to trigger what they need to know. And so then they would make the call, and if they made a bad call, I might actually, and it was bad call after bad call, I might say something to the training cadre to hey, make this even harder for us.
Gotcha.
So that, there's a lesson to be learned in there. There's a lesson through failure. So then we would be able to go back and we could dissect what went wrong. So we were in this situation. Why didn't you take that advice of maybe what we should have done is pulled back and moved around that terrain, come over the top and flank the enemy.
So it's so similar to a preseason training for athlete, you name the sport,
right?
Where that's concerned. And when I think about as an entrepreneur, for example, we've had Fit Body Boot Camp. It's been a brand now since 2012, so going on 8-9 years. We've been franchised, and a year and a half ago, we decided that we're going to create a supplement, the True Lean supplement line, and that to me was going into another season, if you will, because when you're creating a supplement line, injecting millions of dollars into it, building a team around it, and then you're going to launch it, and you're going to hope that it's successful and profitable, and so that you can continue making money and not lose money. It takes a certain level of mental discipline, of physical performance, to be able to make all the decisions, because truth be told, when we launched True Lean, in hindsight, if I go back and look at it, I would have only created one product, which would have been the whey protein. I would have created it in 3 flavors and just launched that first. Made that the most tastiest, awesomest thing for people to talk about. And instead, we came out with 15 SKUs, and now people were talking about the hydration product, some were talking about the protein, some were talking about the vegan product, and we were trying to sell it all. So we came from obscurity to, hey, now we also do supplements, but we had everything. And so people got confused. And in the market space, confused buyers don't buy.
Right.
And so all of a sudden we found $1.4 million of inventory stuck on shelves in a warehouse in Simi Valley. And very quickly, my leadership team and I, of course, panic sets in because, Aaron, our VP for that company. He's like, dude, I feel like I let you down. I was like, dude, you didn't let me down. You didn't let me down. You said, let's create 15 SKUs. I said, okay, let's do it. I made the final decision. It wasn't you. And so now that we know that was a bad idea, we could either hand wring and stress and freak out over it, or we can go to the drawing board and go, what is the most popular thing of the 15, and start selling more of that.
Right.
And then go to the next thing and then the next thing, which is what we did. And we recovered and everything was fine. But had I not had the mental discipline that I developed through launching Fit Body Bootcamp, had I not put myself through hardships and adversities like my 6-week challenges and consistently working out twice a day, had I not just been doing tough things in my life that were hard and made me want to quit, I would have found a million opportunities to quit while launching Fit Body Bootcamp and while launching TrueLean. And so I see, whether in battle, business, or sports, the training for peak performance is the same. It has to be physical, mental, emotional,
Right.
Some degree spiritual. Where nutrition is concerned for you these days, because yesterday when you and I were talking upstairs, I hope you don't mind me sharing this, like, you've been pretty banged up.
Sure.
As a SEAL,
Yeah.
right? 26 years.
Yeah, 26 years.
You've been pretty banged up, and even before then, as a 15-year-old, you were shot by...
Yeah, I was shot hunting with my great uncle. Yeah.
I'm laughing because the story that Will told me yesterday, I was laughing because at the age of 15, when that happened to you, you were like, holy shit, the mind wants to deny what happened. And the way you said it, well, if I spit up blood.
Right. If I spit blood, he shot me, and I'm going to shoot him back.
I just love that. Those dots connect. I love that. Thankfully, he didn't shoot anyone, and you still have several pellets in your body.
30 plus.
30 plus pellets in your body. But so being banged up, obviously, and now I think we're the same age, 46 years old.
46, yeah.
Yeah. You probably have a very different way of putting your body through nutrition and recovery,
Yep.
so that you can operate in a new phase of your life, which is entrepreneurship.
Right.
You launched Naked Warrior Recovery. What's the reason why you launched a CBD line when there's so many different CBD products out there?
So there are a lot of CBD products out there, and it was kind of fortunate for me that there were in the beginning. So I'll say it was just over a year ago, let me back up a little bit. So I was driving to work one day, listening to a podcast, probably 5 years ago, before CBD was cool. And the guy was talking about medical marijuana, and everyone knows about THC, but he said there's this other molecule in the cannabis plant called CBD, and it has all these medicinal benefits. And I'm thinking about myself and how I'm dealing with stress and how I'm dealing with stuff that's in my head, emotional baggage.
Sure.
And I'm using prescription meds. I'm using a lot of alcohol just to go to sleep at night. And but I still maintain a top secret clearance. So I'm like, well, I know that if I were to use something that's related to marijuana, I'm probably going to get kicked out of the Navy. So that's not an option. So we'll just continue with our bad habits of,
Right.
Dealing with stress as best as we can.
Sure.
So fast forward, retired from the Navy. I was still interested in CBD. I was terrified of it because, I grew up in the Nancy Reagan just say no war on drugs.
Right.
So I've been inoculated into that, conditioned into like, oh, marijuana bad. CBD, maybe I feel like it's good for me, but I don't really know.
Right.
And then, so fast forward a year ago, last June, I was in Virginia. I had lunch with Ray, and I said, Ray, I'm going to go take off and see if I can find some CBD here in Virginia, because maybe your CBD is better than the CBD in Hawaii. I don't really know.
Yeah.
And he's like, you want CBD? I've got some at home. So he handed me a bottle. And I took it, and that night I slept a little bit better. And then when I woke up, I was a little less pissed off, a little less anxious. So, water boils at 212 degrees. I was probably living in this 210, 9, 10, 11 degree range. So I woke up and I was like 205 degrees. I was a little bit less. And over time, I was, maybe I'm 200 degrees. And so I went from like living in this red zone to like orange and into yellow, not quite ever making it into the green zone. And as I kind of I used the rest of that bottle, and something happened to me that I didn't expect because I didn't really research CBD that much back then. I would do these movements where I'm grimacing in pain. I know, like, it's like someone is stabbing me with a knife when I do like this movement or some other movement, and that movement was just less bad. It was more dull. It wasn't so sharp. So I ran out of the product. I didn't order anymore. But I knew that I wasn't sure if I really got benefit or not, placebo effect, something.
Sure.
But then I ran out and things started coming back. I started moving back up to orange, and I'm like, well, maybe let's try something else. I tried another brand, and fortunately for me, from what I know now, they were pretty good brands. They were reputable brands.
Yeah.
So I moved from like going back into the orange back down to like in the yellow. I'm like, okay, I want to be in this industry.
Yeah.
But I didn't really know how. And it was at the Empire Business Summit in San Diego where we met. I met someone in the industry. I found out how to get in the industry, and that allowed me to start my own company so that I can help other people create a quality product, because there's a lot of trash out there in the market right now. A quality product that's going to help people get the recovery that they need.
And to that point, like, recovery is huge for me now. And then it's funny, right around when I started turning 37, 38 years old, which was about a year after I tore my bicep, I found that when I would get injured from lifting, my recovery took longer. So I was like, all right, maybe I need to start really focusing on mobility, flexibility, warm-up sets, right, before just jumping into a heavy set. Those days of going right to a heavy set were gone. And these days at 46 years old, like, I'm very precise on how I train, what temperature I keep my gym at when I'm training, and even to the point where my level of hydration, because I know my tendons are more brittle at 46 than they were at 36 or 26, right? And those muscles are always going to be stronger than the tendons and the connective tissue that hold it together. And so, I'll use, like, for example, I use collagen, like, I forget the brand that I buy, but it's this collagen. It's like 5 different types of collagen, like eggshell and all these other ones, in my protein powder. And, I do the best that I can to keep my body alkaline and not acidic. I used to never even care about that stuff. I stopped drinking coffee or anything caffeinated at 1 p.m., whereas before, if I needed a little boost at 3 or 4 in the afternoon.
All the way through, yeah.
Yeah, right? And then it's just like, well, I'll figure out how to sleep later. I really kind of dose up the magnesium at night, like 45 minutes before bed, to help me fall asleep into a deep... And I found that all these little nutritional hacks and things like flexibility and mobility training before I work out have kept me injury-free.
Right.
I operate at a higher level because I get a deeper sleep at night, so I make better decisions at work. Mm-hmm. And then I was, truth be told, I'd heard about CBD. I had never taken it. And after meeting you at the Empire Business Summit, you went on to make this thing, and one day you texted me, hey, what's your address? And
we linked up over Christmas first.
That's right. And Christmas, I was in Hawaii.
Yep.
That's right. Yeah. Every Christmas we go to Maui, and you and your family came there, and we got to talking. By the way, what was the blood restriction?
It's called Katsu. K-A-A-T-S-U.
Why don't you explain that? It's a really cool device that has.
So basically, it's and I use this for recovery as well.
Yeah.
For working out and for recovery, but basically it's they're pneumatic cuffs where you control the amount of pressure that is applied to the cuffs. And what it does, so there's some physical and metabolic things that happen to your body when you do this. So basically it's putting pressure on the veins. It's still allowing blood to come into the extremity, arm or leg, whatever you have, but it's not allowing as much blood to leave, depending on how much pressure you have.
Sure.
So, and this runs through a cycle. So when you apply this pressure, and it's not like wrapping a band around your arm or a tourniquet that cuts off the blood flow. You still have blood flow. You want blood to come in, but less blood to leave. So what happens is you're putting pressure on the circulatory system, and what that does is it's starting to push blood out into your capillaries. So your capillaries are part of your circulatory system, but they don't get used that much. Also, it's pushing blood into your tendons, and ligaments when you're doing that. which
Areas that typically don't
they
get
don't
blood.
get very much blood flow.
Yeah.
So you're getting blood into those brittle areas as you get older. So some of the metabolic things that happen is when you have that extra pressure, you're kind of artificially raising the blood pressure in the limb. Is your endothelial cells start producing nitric oxide. So nitric oxide is this great hormone that you produce to create vasodilation. It's good for all sorts of other stuff. So you start creating more nitric oxide. And the more you do this type of work, your body realizes, hey, we need to create more endothelial cells. So you start creating more endothelial cells, growing more endothelial cells, and start producing more nitric oxide naturally.
And by the way, those of you, if you're like, wait a minute, this nitric oxide thing sounds familiar. That's right. There's supplements that actually have, I believe, niacin in it to create vasodilation, to give you a better pump. Like it's usually pre-workouts that have that in it. That create vasodilation. What was the actual cuffs called again?
Katsu, Kaatsu.
Katsu. So you can look those up, or you could reach out to Will and he'll hook you up with some.
There, you can read about them on my website.
There you go. And so to that point, like again, I never thought about that kind of stuff until as I started to realize that every injury, like a small muscle strain or tear, puts me into a funk, man, because like working out is just something I love. It's therapeutic for me. It's a great way to kind of anchor my day. Like if I win in the gym, I know I'm going to win the rest of the day at work. And if I'm injured, now I'm a bit funky about it.
Right.
And so I started doing all this stuff with mobility, flexibility, and nutrition, and it's been a game changer for me. And I now find that, you know, in the evenings I start preparing. I take my 30 ounces of water with me upstairs, so as soon as I wake up in the morning, I can chug a lug. I hired a company to come and completely black out my room, like the shades, even the, what do you call it, the smoke detector light. It doesn't blink. You know, like there's, it's just completely dark so that I could sleep deeper. And all those things, I've noticed incremental changes. And one thing, and everyone watching and listening to this knows that I worked with Kevin Downing for 16 months, a therapist who helped me unfuck myself mentally during some crazy times, some 9 years ago. But one thing Kevin told me, because I was like, hey, Kevin, I'm here to help, so you can help me get over my panic attacks and anxieties because they're just fucking me up. Like I can't function. I'm taking all this, God, what is that drug that kind of numbs you and relaxes you? Xanax.
Yeah.
I was taking Xanax like it was no one's business, dude. And you know, you can't be creative and go and like, you're not going to bend iron on Xanax.
Yeah.
I just want to cuddle up with the iron at that point in the gym. So I was like, I got to get off Xanax and I need you to help me with this. And he goes, look, there's no one thing I can tell you that's going to help you have no more anxiety attacks and have panic attacks. But he goes, what if I can give you one strategy to help you get 10% less anxiety attacks? What if I can give you another one that helps you get 20% less, and another one that helps you get 5% less? And I realized that's what it's about. Even in health and fitness, in performance, in business, battle, or sports, there's no one thing that's going to make me a super athlete or super warrior.
Right.
But there's probably one thing I could do that'll make me 10% better. And
incremental changes.
Right. And I found that after you sent me a box of these, and you sent me the cream, the ointment. I mean, you sent me a lot of stuff, actually, even the dog treats. But the thing that I just madly fell in love with, dude, are these broad spectrum CBD gummies. And quite honestly, Will, I thought that, you know, if I get results, it's going to be because of a placebo effect.
Sure.
And so I started to fuck around with it. I took 2 a day for a whole week, started to feel better. I'm like, it's fake. It's all in my mind.
Sure.
So I stopped. Within 2 days, I was back to kind of restless sleep. I even take one during the afternoon now, just because I feel it kind of like L-theanine, the supplement L-theanine. It kind of stabilizes my mood during the day when shit's flying at me from different angles. And so anyway, I'm a believer in the product. And then as I talk to you, I'm like, hey man, so what's the difference between your product and this? And when you explain to me how the industry is full of kind of dirty little secrets because the profit margins matter to most other brands over the purpose of serving people, you definitely did something very different with yours. And in fact, you even have this goofy little QR code in the back that I was unaware of until you told me about it, where you can scan it and see the actual lab results of what's in these gummies.
Right.
And maybe you can just educate, because I really believe, like on the Empire Show, if we're telling people like, hey, these are the supplements you ought to take, and this is what they do to you. Like magnesium is going to give you better sleep at night, and 30 ounces of water first thing in the morning is going to rehydrate you, because you're dehydrating at night when you're exhaling all night long, and your brain is like 70% water, and it needs that water to function well, and so you're not foggy headed anymore. If we're telling you what to do, we also need to tell you why. Why did you go so far in putting a QR code that kind of shows the lab results of what's in here?
So as I started digging into the industry and trying to figure out what products I wanted to sell and how to do it, I started looking at suppliers, and then I also looked at the FDA. You know, right now CBD is not regulated by the FDA at all. It's really the wild, wild west. And the more research I did, the more I found that the FDA has actually gone out and done spot checks on CBD products that are in the marketplace, whether they're online, if they're in the gas station, if they're in a smoke shop, if they're in a CBD store. And 90% of the products either didn't have CBD in them, or they didn't have the CBD they said they had in them. If it said they had 10 milligrams, they only had 3, something like that. Or they had high levels of THC. So the difference between hemp and marijuana is the amount of THC that's in the plant. So to be a hemp plant, it has to be 0.3% or less THC. So all of my products, we just make sure we remove all of the THC, so there is no THC in the product.
So you're not going to get stoned eating a gummy bear?
Not going to get stoned.
Now, what if I wrap it up in a joint and smoke it? Would I get stoned?
You will not. So actually, it's interesting. CBD, the way CBD works in the endocannabinoid system, is CBD is really the antithesis of THC. So let's say you have some really strong THC and you have a bad trip. What THC does is it binds to those neuroreceptors in your brain.
Got it.
And what CBD will do, it'll come in and it'll unbind those neuroreceptors. It'll unbind the THC from the neuroreceptors, and then you'll be able to come back down off of that high. But because hemp is a bioaccumulator, which means it pulls all the good stuff out of the soil and all the bad stuff out of the soil.
Okay, that's the part that tripped me out yesterday.
Right.
And as you tell your story, I'm going to explain people why this is so critical. Go.
So hemp is a bioaccumulator. It pulls all the good stuff and all the bad stuff out of the soil. It's such a powerful bioaccumulator. They're using hemp at Chernobyl to pull the radiation out of the soil so they can repopulate that area one day. That's crazy. So the FDA went out. They're still doing spot checks today, and I think they're going out to, like today, they're like about 500 different companies. They're buying their products, bringing them in and testing them. They're testing for heavy metals. So many of the products that they tested had high levels of heavy metal. One of the ways that you can extract CBD from the hemp plant using acetone. So they were finding high levels of acetone or other solvents like that.
And when you say heavy metal, we're talking lead and mercury,
yeah,
type of stuff.
They test right now for like nine different heavy metals. I don't even know what they all are. Those two are big. Pesticides, herbicides. So let's just say that this farm is organic, but the farm across the way they're spraying pesticides and whatever. All that stuff is going into the soil, and the hemp plant is pulling it back out.
Right.
So all of our products we test the oil before we create gummies or our tincture or lotions to make sure the oil is good, and then we create whatever we create, and then on the final product, we send that off to the lab and have the lab, do a final check to make sure that it says what's on the bottle is what you're getting. So if you're taking something to help heal you, you don't want to be putting a bunch of poison into your body.
Well said. And so the QR code literally tells you the lab results.
So the QR code will take you to the lab results, and then to get the actual lab results, there's a lot number down here, and you just go to that lot right on the bottom.
Brilliant.
And you can see exactly what's in that product that you're taking.
Dude, and I'll tell you what, for a product that's not governed by any government body, not that the government can fucking control anything for us anyway, that's an argument for another day, but if anyone's have you seen the movie Bigger, Stronger, Faster?
No.
Mark Bell created this documentary called Bigger, Stronger, Faster, great documentary, and he talks about kind of steroids and when people break records and they're on steroids, is that cheating and all this stuff? And he really goes into a lot of, talks about wrestling like Hulk Hogan all the way to sports and Barry Bonds and Mark McGuire and all these records being broken. But he also talks about, well, all right, let's do it naturally then. Let's not use pharmaceutical steroids. So he literally finds companies where people are putting capsules together in their kitchen and just like, using razor blades to scoop it up and put it because they're not, no FDA is overseeing a supplement company. And that is what this is. That is what my brand Trulian is. And so if we don't police ourselves and if we don't focus on putting the product first instead of the profits first, make no mistake about it, I'm a free market capitalist. But if I'm poisoning people, that's not necessarily what I'm, the karmic tax that I'll pay for that is massively severe. So, and the reason, when you explain this to me and why I use your product is simple. Last year, and I haven't talked about this on the Empire Show, last year, I found out that my mercury levels were sky high to the point where they were affecting my nervous system. And thankfully, Jason Redman, our mutual friend, referred me to Dr. Gabrielle Lyons. And she was able to figure that out and put me on, I think it's called gestational pills or gestational pills. Basically, I was able to get it out of my system. I went from a 9.3 and 9.7 was like the red zone down to like a 4, 4.1, 4.2, which is like a normal human zone. And like anything else, I'm very disciplined. And so there's a sushi joint down the street called Sushi 10, and I would go there 3 days a week for the last 8 years. And when you're eating sushi 3 days a week, and I can eat like a machine for 8 years, that's a lot of mercury I probably took in. I'm guessing it's from there. I'm not saying that, my friend Aaron, who owns the place, gave me mercury poisoning. I'm saying that may have been it. For all I know, it could be the fillings in my teeth. I am also a foreigner, so I have probably lead fillings or mercury-based fillings. So anyway, all that said, to me, what I put in my body is super important. And to that point, one of the recent things I added to it, because I also used to take 2 emergency packets a day. And as we created Trulian, and this whole COVID thing broke out, dude, Aaron, our VP of Trulian, and I were talking. I'm like, man, people are wearing masks. And as they're wearing masks and they're not exposed to others anymore because of social distancing, and we're not like in events and no one's flying anymore, our bodies are going to lose our immunity and our defense system. And so at some point when we go back to normal living, Aaron, people are going to catch a cold, the flu, left and right.
Right, I think so, yeah.
Right? And so, I don't need to be a doctor to do that. But then it's like, hey, let's confirm that. Let's call Dr. Gabrielle. And called her, and she's like, yep, that's exactly what's going to happen. And people are going to panic because the COVID symptoms are similar to the flu and cold symptoms. Right. And so we're all going to go into a panic again. And for the longest time, because I travel and I shake hands after speaking events, I would take 2 emergency packets a day, no matter what. Sometimes I would double up on top of that when I'm traveling during travel days, or if the person next to me or whatever is coughing. And I always felt like it served me well. But as I go further along in years, I was like, well, I wonder if there's something better. And Aaron, who does a lot of research, obviously, because he's our VP of our company, he's like, dude, just so you know, those emergency packets, they have sugar in them, so it tastes good. And sugar and vitamin C compete for the same receptor site, and sugar always wins.
Right.
And so 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C is not getting absorbed because sugar kind of almost cracks the door closed a little bit, right? I'm like, well, shit, I don't want to take 2,000 grams of or milligrams of vitamin C, but only get whatever, 800.
100.
Yeah, or 100, even worse, right? And I'm like, Aaron, if we were going to make the best immunity product on the planet, what would it have? He goes, well, it wouldn't have sugar, but in addition to that, it would have vitamin D, it would have B12, it would have turmeric, it would have ginger, but turmeric only works when there's cayenne pepper because it slows the absorption of that. Aaron geeks out on this stuff.
Sure, yeah.
I'm like, get the fuck out of here. All those things, yep. And so he lists them off, and there's 13 ingredients. I'm like, dude, so we know that people are going to need this product. We know that emergency is a lesser product, right? I go, well, what would we sweeten it up with? He goes, well, we sweeten it up with stevia that's natural and monk fruit that's natural. We're not going to use artificial sweeteners. Like, check, got it. So next thing I know, we're making the Trillium Wellness Shot, and it's become this massive game changer. And we launched it on Amazon 4 weeks ago, and I take 2 packets of these a day now, and I gave you some yesterday. But it's completely changed like my idea of reinforcing my immune system.
So I took this with my energy drink today. Like I mixed the two.
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
Okay. It's funny. Is tomorrow morning I'm going to drink your energy drink, so I might actually mix that together. So, yeah, you just created a energy drink that has CBD in it, right?
12.5 milligrams of CBD.
12.5 milligrams of CBD, caffeine.
It's about 75 milligrams of caffeine, about the same as a cup of coffee.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And if people are like, well, man, I need my Monster energy drink. Let me tell you guys something. In my 20s, I may or may not have been known to also snort cocaine before a leg workout. You know what I mean? As a pre-workout. You don't need that shit. You should have enough. I wish I can go back to my 20-year-old self and be like, dude, have enough discipline where you can listen to the right music and get so fucking mentally jacked that you could bend iron. Like today, I cannot sleep for a day or two and then just talk mentally. I take mental pre-workout by just talking myself into an angry frenzy to go into the gym and just crush it. And I think more of us need to do that kind of stuff. And the reason for that is it really teaches you self-mastery. Because if you're always relying on chemicals. But anyway, some part of that comes with wisdom, and you just have to get into your late 30s and 40s to figure that out.
Experience, you gotta.
It is. And so anyhow, I'm going to mix the two together. But it's been a game changer for me. So I'm curious, now that you're 46, you're in great shape. You just swam. By the way, all of you should know this. It was a GIGO Foundation? What's it called?
GIGO. So it's, yeah.
GIGO. What does it stand for?
I have no idea.
Come on, man. You swam the Hudson. How do you not know?
I was too focused on swimming.
All right. So there's this GIGO is the foundation, and shout out to them because they're doing a lot of good for our military men and women and first responders. But both Will and Ray, along with, I don't know, it seemed like a couple dozen.
There were 55 of us total.
How many of you were SEALs?
Most of us were SEALs. Probably, we didn't get a head count of total number of SEALs, probably 30. Almost all of us were retired or just former SEALs.
Yeah.
There were a couple active duty guys, and then there were some people, some first responders from the New York area that were allowed, if they passed a swim test, to come out and swim with us.
I think there was enough of you guys there where maybe right after you finished your swim, you guys could have gone and overthrown Governor Cuomo. Governor Cuomo from New York, and they can open up the fucking businesses again, put New York back to business. Dude, did you hear billionaires are leaving Manhattan now? Because
Really?
Yeah, because they're doing, in the tunnels and on the bridges, they're doing checkpoints. In other words, what's your business for being out and about?
Really?
My business is I'm a fucking free American.
I'm America.
Yeah, right? And so billionaires are like, fuck you, we're out of here. And Governor Cuomo was like, well, not Governor Cuomo. Governor Cuomo stated that. And then the mayor of New York was like, well, if all these billionaires leave, we're going to have to cut 80% of the city workers and all that, trying to guilt people in. And the billionaires were fucking out of there, dude.
Yeah.
Out of there. You're not going to tell me that you're going to restrict my lifestyle in addition to taxing me through the nose.
Right. We're Americans.
We are Americans. We will draw the line in the sand. So anyway, so what you did is you guys did 66 pull-ups. Ray told me 66 pull-ups, and then you told me how many miles did you guys run?
So it was about 2.5 miles of running and 3.5 miles of swimming.
Swimming, along with 66.
So it was. So we started off. We did 100 push-ups at the. I don't remember all the names of the park. So we did 100 push-ups at empty Sky Park, where they have some monuments to the Twin Towers.
Yeah.
And then we got in a formation and ran about 2 miles to where we got in the water. Swam out to a barge right next to the Statue of Liberty, got out, did 100 push-ups and 100 more push-ups, 22 pull-ups, and the 22 pull-ups are significant in that 22 veterans a day commit suicide. So it's to bring awareness to that, and really, a lot of my mission in Naked Warriors to help veterans and first responders. Like, we're all stressed, we all have anxiety, we all have like emotional baggage. CBD was something that helped. It was a modality to help me, get out of this red zone so that I can get into like orange or yellow so I can have better self-talk and just like improve my overall quality of life.
Dude, let's talk about that for a moment. You know, people think, well, you know, you've seen combat, 26 years as a SEAL. You've seen combat. Shit's been blown up around you. You've been shot at. I could imagine why you'd have PTSD. I don't have PTSD, but as you explained yesterday,
You do.
Yeah, most people do.
I bet you do.
Yeah, and especially these days when you're dealing with this COVID,
Right.
and people are getting depressed, they're getting anxious, they're getting angry, they're feeling rageful, and all of a sudden these dark thoughts begin to creep in.
Sure.
So, can you explain it the way you explained it to me about like how an average person could also have PTSD just like
So I mean,
a warrior?
I mean, even if you just look at how many people in the country, we'll just say the country, have some sort of anxiety disorder,
Right.
or they take Xanax, or they take whatever. You know, maybe it's a soccer mom who's like stressed out about especially right now, kids are staying home, they're not going to school. Like now I'm responsible for, maybe I'm a working mom. I'm responsible for making sure my kid gets the education that they need, and I still have a full-time job, and how do I even manage that?
Yeah.
Or my kid doesn't want to do the work, or, I'm a business owner and nothing is going right. Everything is closing down around me. You have a bad relationship with a spouse, a significant other, a family member. All of those things, pain is cumulative. So if I just poke you in the arm like this for a few minutes, you're just going to be like, no, that's no big deal. In an hour, it's going to start to get annoying. Mm-hmm. In a day, you're going to have a massive bruise on your arm.
Yeah.
And pretty soon, anytime anyone touches you in that spot,
Ouch.
It's going to hurt.
Yeah.
That's the way that stress and anxiety and that sort of emotional thing happens. There may be someone in your life or something in your life that's like that finger that's just poking you in the arm. It's not a big deal right now in the beginning. And then if you tell someone about it, it's like, what? They're just poking you in the arm. Yeah, but they've been poking me in the arm, or this event or this thing or this situation has been poking me in the arm for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And so anytime that's the trigger. When people talk about the trigger, that's the poking you in the arm.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what it is. It's different for everyone. But, it doesn't matter if it's combat or if it's, just trying to raise your kids.
Yeah.
There's stress in your life.
Yeah. And we're not saying like this is a replacement for medical drugs, but I can tell you from firsthand, it has a calming effect on me. And I feel the anti-inflammation on my joints. You've been able to replace CBD with, let's just call it what it is, the abuse of alcohol.
Right.
Right. And it's worth it if you've got that emotional trauma, stress, depression you're dealing with, and you want some kind of natural cure. Maybe it's worth you trying out CBD. It's worth you trying hydrating yourself instead of taking in sodas and caffeine. It's worth you trying to not screen sucking so much from the blue light that comes out of your phone and computer and television. Maybe you ought to try getting a good night of sleep every night of the week. Sleep at the same time, wake up at the same time. Maybe you ought to try controlling the thoughts that occupy your mind, the people you surround yourself with. Because when you do this kind of stuff and you have a consistent regimen of things like this that work, you find yourself relying less and less and ultimately eliminating the vices in your life that really are damaging,
right,
and create addiction. Yeah. So to that point, is there any Navy SEAL hacks that you could tell us that would make us perform better in life?
Navy SEAL hacks. I would say many of them are what you put out. Try to get enough sleep at night.
Sure.
Because you can't perform. In BUD/S, they keep you up for 5.5 days during Hell Week to see how you respond to, and your mind just goes crazy. I saw all sorts of crazy stuff, day 4, 4.5, those nights while we're paddling around.
Yeah.
But, really I would say the Navy SEAL hacks are, have a good diet, get plenty of sleep at night, stay hydrated. Those are really
Isn't it funny? It's always the foundation.
those are
of stuff.
you can't build a house on sand.
Yeah.
Unless you have a good foundation under it. So
And I'm glad you shared that. And guys, we didn't even rehearse like what his answer was going to be on that. Like this is just the Empire show. When we have an inside look like this, it's just two dudes or a dude and a gal. If we have like Cindy Eckhart, who was here, just sitting at a bar having a conversation, is how I always kind of envisioned this to be. And whether I've had literally billionaires sitting in that chair, Super Bowl winning athletes. It doesn't matter. Navy SEALs, the answer is always the same. It's the foundational stuff. There's no magical hack. It's like, hey, good nutrition, good habits, a strong belief system, exercise, and, keep yourself dialed in mentally and physically. And if you do, all the other stuff, create the trivial support that we need. How can people try this, find it, see if, Naked Warrior gummy bears work for them? Why Naked Warrior, by the way? What the hell is up with that funky name, bro?
So Naked. I'm glad you asked.
Yeah.
Naked Warrior is the Naked Warrior, the guy that you see on my shirt here. That's kind of the lineage of the Navy SEAL. So back in World War II,
Okay.
if you ever saw the movie Saving Private Ryan,
Yes.
You saw the beginning scene where the landing force is going into the beach.
Yeah.
Well, before those guys went into the beach, the Navy went out and asked for volunteers. Most of them were demolition experts in the construction world that were in the Navy, and they volunteered. They were able to swim, and what these guys would do is they would go in and they did hydrographic reconnaissance. So basically, they had a rock, a piece of string with knots in it every 6 feet. They had a slate. I don't know if you can see it around, and that's where they took notes. And they kind of got online and they measured 3,000 to 5,000 yards of beach a night. They went back to the ship. They built a chart if there were any obstacles in the water or on the beach, and they're taking fire from the enemy while they're doing this, and they're wearing nothing but like teeny tiny shorts. They had a K-bar knife and a mask and fins. And that's what they were wearing into combat. And so they were called the Naked Warrior. And later on in the Pacific, when the Marines would, during the island campaign, Marines would go ashore, they would hit these reefs around the islands, and they would think they were in like knee-deep water. They'd run off. They'd fall off the edge of the reef into 30 feet of water and drown. Yeah. So they went from Normandy, which was the first evolution, the first mission of the UDTs, the Naked Warriors, and they pulled them all out to the Pacific. And so before every island campaign, these guys would go in, take fire from the beach, find the obstacles, reefs, whatever they were, man-made obstacles in the water, blow them up, and get out, and as the landing force is coming in. So that's one side.
The mission before the mission.
The mission before the mission. So first to shore, always the first one's in combat.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go any service. One services does more than the other.
But, right. But wink, wink.
But
is that why Ray? So when Ray wears really short shorts, like 3-inch inseams, is that just a nod to the Navy SEAL heritage?
Probably, yes. Or Ray just likes to show his legs. Who knows? But the other side of the Naked Warrior really is it's double meaning. So the other side of it is, we're all warriors, whether we're Navy SEALs, business owners, soccer moms, mechanics, whatever. We are warriors in our lives.
Yeah.
We all also have armor that we put on. So in the SEAL teams, we go out, we do missions, we come back, we take our armor off and recover. Hit the showers. When it's time to go back into combat, into harm's way, we put our armor back on. Well, in real life, we don't always do that. We may put our armor on because we've been hit in the arm, we've been attacked, or we feel attacked, and we need to put this armor on and defend ourselves from whatever it is.
Yeah.
And our ego, it's our ego that we're wearing around. And so, at some point, if you never take your ego off, if you never take that armor off, you're never able to recover. So the Naked Warrior is really, taking that armor off, exposing yourself, becoming naked.
Yes.
Get out there and get naked. Get out there and, be exposed so that you can find goodness in the world. Not everyone is against you. And start that healing process so that you can actually grow and recover and become the best version of yourself.
So once again, we did not rehearse this. I shit you not.
We didn't even talk about that yesterday.
No, we didn't. And I've never told you about what one of the things Kevin told me. So it's, when you're working with a therapist once a week for 16 months, you explore every facet of your life, and a good therapist will just kind of dig just right where you don't realize they're digging. They're just asking questions, and before you know it, you're like, and then I was 3 years old and I was sucking my thumb and this happened,
Right.
you know? And so I was like, well, Kevin, you know, I don't really understand why when I come home from work, my wife is walking on eggshells, my kids are walking on eggshells, the fucking dog is walking on eggshells around me, Kevin, and it fucking pisses me off, man, da da da. He's like, okay, and he's like leaning back in his chair. I'm like, I can tell you're walking on eggshells right now, Kevin. He's like, well, you're a big guy, and I'm on the second floor, and I'm just a little worried. You know, and he's
There's a window right here.
Yeah. And Kevin, just to give everyone a visual, he's 64 years old now, and he's got just white hair. Think Einstein without the eyebrows. And so when you first meet him, you're like, something's off with this guy's face, but you can't really tell.
Back to the Future.
Yeah. By the third session, I'm like, fuck, Kevin, you've got no eyebrows, and he just laughs, right? So. Anyway, so he goes, hey, I'll tell you what. He goes, it's very clear that you're stressed at work and anxiety and all that stuff. And, you know, it probably feels like you go to battle, right? I'm like, yeah. I go, you don't know what vendor, you don't know who your competitors are these days. Someone gets funded, you know, $100 million and a new brand is built overnight and you're competing against a well-funded business. And, you have someone that you think is your ally and they start stealing your clients. And I go, it's just a shady fucking way, this entrepreneurial world, you know? I go, fuck yeah, I'm in battle. And he goes, okay, I see that. But he goes, when you get home, do you think that maybe you can take the armor off? Like, that's literally what you just said. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, well, why don't you tell me, like, your routine when you get home? I go, well, I park in my garage. It's a detached garage, you know, way over there. I walk across the pool deck, and then I walk through the back door. He goes, I'll tell you what. Let's create a routine for you. When you park, as you're walking across that pool deck, just picture your chest plate falling off. He goes, just picture your sword falling off. Just picture your helmet falling off and your armor falls off. You were in battle and that's great, but now show up as dad and the husband, not as someone who is looking for a fight because you were fighting all day. And I go, how would that look? He goes, maybe a smile, maybe a little pep in your step. And so I literally, every day, still do that. And I change my cadence. Because, dude, the reality is I'll have my backpack over my shoulder, still grimacing. God gave me a very grimacy look on my face. And I'll be grimacing and in my thoughts about what I'm going to do tomorrow. And if I walk into the house that way, the family's like, whoa, dude, right? And I take it as, why are they walking on eggshells when I've given this amazing life? When in reality, they're like, we'd love a much lesser life and just a dad who's approachable.
Right.
And so, you know, this was 8 years ago, the story that I'm telling you now, but I share this with you because I still do that 8 years every single day. Even when I come back from the gym on the weekends, just because when I'm in the gym, I'm in battle again. I'm fighting my inner bitch who wants to quit squatting or lifting or deadlifting. And I'd rather go to McDonald's, quite honestly, right? And so I do that. And within the third or fourth time walking in the house with my armor off, my wife's energy, my kids' energy. I think the first and second time they're like, yeah, right. He's just trying to lure us in.
What's going on?
Yeah.
There? What's...
Yeah. He's just trying to fuck us up. You know, third, fourth time they're like, I think this guy learned a new lesson, you know, in therapy. And it's completely changed who I am. But I really do believe that I guess the Naked Warrior ethos, it's not just a Navy SEAL thing. Like it's vulnerability. And the way I see it is if we could just put the armor down, be a little more vulnerable, and as you said, not everyone's out to get you.
Right. It's okay to ask for help sometimes too.
It's okay to ask for help. And as you do, you realize, holy shit, man, it's easier to ask for help with a smile on my face, with a little kick in my step. And as Tony Robbins always says, you know, if you're in a bad headspace, just change your state. Act happy, and soon you start actually releasing the happy hormones, which is goofy enough to say, but it works. There's science behind it. So how does someone find these amazing gummies, but all the Naked Warrior recovery products?
So
where do they go?
I'm going to tell you that in just a second. Ray actually told me something that makes these taste even better is if you put them in the fridge or in the freezer.
Okay.
They taste even better.
I will have to try that tonight.
So you can find these in all of my products at nw-recovery.com. NW for Naked Warrior -recovery. You could also go to nakedwarrior.com and it'll take you there. But I didn't think people wanted to type naked into their search engine. So who knows what, you know. So nw-recovery.com. And I also created a discount code EMPIRE to save 20%.
Oh,
to
very cool.
all of your listeners. So
Very cool. And for the record, one, I didn't know about that. Two, I don't get a commission or percentage or any of that stuff. From time to time, Will send me these, but if you didn't send it to me, I'd buy it anyway. So
Sure.
now that I told you that, you'll probably stop sending me this stuff and I'll end up buying it. But I do appreciate it. So go to NW-Warrior.
Recovery.
I'm sorry, NW-Recovery.com to get your hot little hands on these amazing CBD products that are actually very good for you and very clean. Use the keyword or discount code EMPIRE during checkout. Get that 20% off. Yep. Thanks for doing that for our tribe here. And how can people find you, learn more about you and what you do?
I'm on Instagram at Naked Warrior Recovery. I'm also at william.r.branum.
Awesome. Well, Will, thank you so much again for your service, for spending time with us here on the show. Guys and gals, if you liked this episode, like I know you did, do me a favor, give us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. Leave a comment and, of course, take a screenshot, share it on social media, and be sure to tag Will and myself, and we will make sure that we repost that. And you all have a wonderful day. Take care.